Morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Pulp Blotter Book Club on 22 Panels. I'm joined today both by Mark Pracht and Sean Harklerode. So we got our whole Chicago theater contingent now twice a month on 22 Panels. And
God help you
today,
all.
I know you guys in psychopharmacology just keep coming back. Maybe we'll put you all together at some point, and God knows what'll happen. I kept trying to get them to come to your place, and they wanted to, but they live in the south suburbs and they have small children. So getting up to the theater on in the evening is not an easy thing.
No, I get it.
But they're psychologists that use comics in their practice. So well, I think I introduced you to Edgar at some point,
Hmm.
probably at C2E2 or something. I don't remember.
Yeah, think he friended me too
Yeah.
somewhere. Anyway,
Yeah. But anyway, um, Sergeant Rock, where Mark has already said he has many thoughts. So we're gonna let
um,
Mark
yeah,
lead
this
off.
is
I'm still working on my thoughts.
this is this was my idea to read this,
Hmm.
and I think it's very interesting to read this after the Kirkman War books we did
Kurtzman?
last month.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kurtzman, God, not
I
Kirkman,
was
Yeah.
gonna
Kurtzman.
say what?
Yeah, yeah. No,
Kurtzman.
Kurtzman, Harvey Kurtzman. This book, this what I read, and I think what Tad read,
I actually
and
finished it.
right, is the Sergeant Rock Archive Edition, Volume One, which is apparently long out of print, and DC
Yeah.
has no interest in reprinting any of this material, which I think is sad because I
Right.
did like a lot of it. But here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to start with. I love Sergeant Rock. I would always get really excited in the late 70s when I was a kid in the late 70s, early 80s, when I would be in the drugstore or whatever, and I would see a Sergeant Rock book and I would grab it. And what shocked me, I wouldn't say shocked, but I was really surprised that these stories had very little connection to what I remembered of a Sergeant Rock comic when I was a kid. Now, granted, these are like mid to late 50s, and I think that what was really interesting to me is how much they reminded me of those EC books, Frontline Combat, and things like that. And also that, basically Sergeant Rock, he's a character in the stories, but he's more of just like a narrator. He kind of functions like one of the EC Comics host characters. And I was really surprised by all that. I liked most of these stories a lot, but I was like, where's, the ice cream soldier shows up, bulldozer shows up, but I was like, where's a little sure shot? Where's because what I remember from Sergeant Rock is Easy Company was this identifiable group of characters, and they would go through adventures. It wasn't like these parable things. It was actually recurring tales of Easy Company, which was this kind of tight-knit group of they were more like a squad really than a company, but and they were it was a whole group of characters, and Rock was in charge. Uh, and so I was surprised by that. Um, I absolutely adored the first story, the boxing thing. I thought that was incredible. And yeah, so that's my first thought and was my first big surprise on this read.
So now, I don't think I read that first story. That's the one he's not called Rock, or
It's
is he?
yeah, it's called The Rock, and it's basically just uh, it it was in GI Combat, not
Right.
Our Army at War, and it is a he's not a sergeant because he doesn't have the stripes on the helmet, but he's a boxer and it's basically he just keeps saying, "Come on and fight," and it cuts between the boxing ring and the battlefield. Um, and I thought it was pretty identifiable. Also, if I'm right, yeah, Kubert artwork. So, um, which to me was I I I love Joe Kubert. So, I mean,
Yeah.
Oh, I
No, the
mean,
first. Yeah. Go
go
ahead.
ahead, Dad.
Oh, I was gonna say the first story was one of my favorites. Um, I took kind of a different take with it versus the Kurtzman, which initially was disappointing, and then as I really thought about it, went, "Oh, this is the first time that we've actually done a pure pulp comic, where the entertainment value is put ahead of any character development, any moral, any whatnot." Um, because like my first reaction reading the Sergeant Rock, with a couple exceptions, there are a couple of stories that I felt were significantly deeper. Um, was that Kurtzman had really looked at the humanity of war and portrayed it.
well, I mean, I
In a
look,
difficult.
I think Kurtzman, like this is like I think that our Army at War was sort of a like especially knowing that these all came out in like the 50s.
Right.
I have to admit, I have to assume that this was some sort of reaction to the success of frontline, or not frontline,
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
frontline combat, and what I can't remember what the other one was. Uh, but um,
Two-fisted.
Two-Fisted, yes.
Yeah.
Um,
But it's
and
also comics code.
Yeah,
Um, so I mean, it took that
but
into consideration. But like the difference is, it feels more like war propaganda to me than, and that's. I mean, this is going to go back, and I'm going nuts to figure out the way to say it so Mark doesn't like start repeating it back to me. It's a place where I enjoyed the stories more. The words often made them worse. It wasn't that the words didn't matter. It's that the words made them worse. Without the words, many of the stories you could just take as combat stories. And then, sometimes some of the expressions were annoying because I'm sitting there going, I don't know that anybody's smiling while they're doing this. Um, but maybe, I mean, because God knows I laugh at a lot of things because the other option is to scream. Um, but like, I found them very one-dimensional. Easy Company is it will battle through everything and win, and we only have people die when it's to have some sort of moral about courage for somebody else, or to explain why Sergeant Rock is would be happy to be Private Rock.
well, I don't know. I mean, like, look, I'm not going to defend that. I mean, I think that there probably is a lot more propaganda to it, but
Right.
I think that those Kurtzman tales had propaganda in
Oh
them.
no,
I mean,
yeah.
I think that uh these are breezier kind of tales.
Yeah.
But I also think, I mean, I felt like they felt like parables, right? And
Right.
I think part of that is about this is what it, I think that they're simplified in their comics code and they're all of those things, but it's still like there was the one about the guy who was always out for number one,
Right.
and I think like there's still lessons and things that are
Yeah.
more than just, I mean, and also,
I,
the war we're talking about here had been over for 10 years. So it's
right.
like it's easy to be like, and also for for the propaganda, like you don't really see the Nazis.
Right.
Like there's like one story that I could think of off the top of my head where the Nazis were actually like a uh
No, you generally see a swastika on a tank
sure.
Yeah.
or a plane. Right.
Well,
Um, and propaganda might not be the right word, recruitment tool, which I think there was truth to that because we were in Korea, which was our first um more volunteer. I don't, did we still have
this Korea
yeah,
was
we still
over by
had,
this time.
was Korea over by this time?
Korea was over by this time, but
Okay.
we were still, look, the draft was still going on.
Right,
Elvis was in Germany
right.
at this time.
But again, where I was going to finish though is that then I started thinking of dime novels, dime westerns, and old pulp novels of various mysteries or hard-boiled or whatever, and like, yeah, the ones we remember the most are the ones that gave huge amounts of depth, and I think that we remember these the most because the artwork is amazing. um but like what is expected in terms of selling pulp is like supermarket fodder.
Sure.
It's to not offend more than to wind up on somebody's syllabus. Um,
Well, I mean, certainly. I mean, like these are mass market,
right,
uh,
Yeah. I mean,
like yeah,
the market, we were still marketing mostly to boys, right?
right.
We hadn't reached the
Or
60s.
had returned to marketing mostly to boys.
Right. And girls, but I mean, children is what I'm
Right,
yeah.
saying. We're looking at preteens and maybe
right. Well,
it,
but also like it was an era where I mean I think that the second wave of romance comics started slightly after this. Um,
but
the beginning, I mean, because this is really the beginnings of Comics Code era. Um, and when you put it in that context, where they're trying to figure out how to continue making comics with this new set of boundaries, I start thinking differently. And I should
but
stop talking because I keep interrupting Sean.
no, I just they are, like Mark said, parables, little stories. I don't know that I'd go so far as recruitment tools, but they are when kids are playing soldier, they fantasize about being this, real tough guy who can do anything. And so that's rock, you know.
Right.
And
But
but
I mean,
totally agree that the best thing about these is the artwork.
mhm.
I mean, I'm sitting here looking at them and and my inner Roy Lichtenstein is just itching to put pen to paper
Well,
because
yeah, I think like the fact that in the one that we have, there's in the first like third of the archive edition, there's several stories that are not drawn by Joe Kubert, and I actually
Yeah.
got kind of actively annoyed by that. I was
yes,
like, I mean, like I realize it's interesting to see the Mort Drucker
Yeah, I was about to
story.
say.
But I'm also like, Mort Drucker is no, like the thing about Joe Kubert that I love, and I remember when I bought my Kubert page at San Diego, and I went over and I was talking to Jeff Smith about it, and I was talking about how like it looks like something that somebody drew on the battlefield, like the
Yeah.
sketchiness of it, and the sort of like he's always had this real kind of rough line, but it was all I mean, like it actually made me think about those Two-Fisted Tales and Frontline Combat that we read last time, and how like that Kurtzman had this problem with Joe Kubert, you know, and part of me is like, what was he a better artist than you?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't want to demean Kurtzman or anything like that. But I mean, like, it's just like there, this Joe Kubert is the military comic book artist, I think, hands down, and especially like, World War II or Enemy Ace or any of those things, it's so right. And so and such I can like the other thing we're involved with, of course, is the Kirby thing. And it's like, and so actual illustration, like there's no there's no overblown physiques or weird anatomy or anything like that. It all just feels so visceral. And
Yeah.
I'll agree. I mean, I think that the art is better than the stories in this one. I think that um and I think that goes back to what I said at first is like I enjoyed these as parables of combat, but like when there was the story with the ice cream soldier and I was like, oh, they're starting. Now we're gonna see, Easy Company come together. And then at the very end there's Bulldozer but it just never happened. And I was reading it and I kept thinking about those ones that I would pick up at the grocery store or at the drugstore and I'd be like, I mean, I remember the first Sergeant Rock story I ever went was called I'm Infantry. And it was basically like Rock got separated from Easy Company and he was traveling all through the war and he ended up with like an artillery division and an armored division. And he was always like, it's a comic book, right? He was always the best guy. Like he just knew how to do everything. And they were like, "Hey, we could get you transferred to infantry or to artillery." And he was like, "I'm infantry." And then he'd walk off to catch up with Easy Company. And I was like, "Man, this is awesome." And it to what you were saying, Tad, it actually did develop a character. Like I understood who Sergeant Rock was by the time I finished that 22 pages or whatever it was in a way that this whole book, this whole hardcover book of archive editions, there's one story that made me think I understand who Frank Rock is. And that's that first story that technically may not even be Frank Rock, It,
Right.
it's I don't know. I've bloviated enough, so somebody else talk.
This is really my introduction to Sergeant. I've read a couple of Sergeant Rock stuff over the years, but this was really my introduction. So I loved it. I didn't even know his name was Frank. Um,
Yeah, I didn't either.
part of me wonders when you talk about, the team effort, the team aspect of it, because I always felt like Sergeant Fury was a direct ripoff of Sergeant Rock.
I think it might have been the other
And
way.
then I wonder if the Howling Commandos influenced the later stories of Easy Company.
Yeah, that's actually as I was reading this, I was like, wow, okay, so this is the 50s and they're kind of trying to do the frontline combat. And then maybe the 60s hit and Stan and Jack are doing the Howling Commandos. And do they think, hey, we have our own thing that we could turn into this?
Mm.
Yeah.
So I fell down a short rabbit hole when you talked about talking to Jeff Smith about Joe Kubert, because I have also talked to Jeff Smith about Joe Kubert. I was there the first time Jeff saw this page. Um,
Hmm.
for that matter, here's the photographic evidence of Jeff seeing that page for the first time. And
Definitely
here's him
Billy
going
Harlan.
nuts. Yeah, this is him going nuts, talking about how, like you said, the things that were so raw. In fact, I was just so in awe that I don't remember all the words, but he was talking about, and he does this, and you should never do that unless you're Joe Kubert, because he makes it work.
Yeah, I remember because the page that I got, God knows I could never afford like a Sergeant Rock page,
Right.
but I think it was Albert Moy had a bunch of pages from a Punisher story that Joe Kubert did
Okay.
in like the late 90s, I think. And
Gotcha.
I have zero interest in the Punisher, really. But the pages were sort of it was sort of a flashback to these like partisan fighters. I don't know if it was supposed to be World War II or whatever. I don't really know the story. But the pages, and Sean's seen it.
Hmm.
You could look at it and be like, oh, that's a Sergeant Rock page. Like that's the way it felt. And that's why I got it. And I left there and I went over to Jeff's booth because I wanted to pick up a sketch for my niece. And
Right.
he was like, is that a Joe Kubert page?
Yeah.
And he was like, I was like, yeah. And he's like, look at those shadows. Look at, because it's like
Yeah.
a picture of these guys around like a oil can with a fire in it. And I'm like, it was so like, yeah,
It
like,
reminds me of the French Resistance.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I have
Well,
a
and
feeling.
as soon as you said that, I'm starting to look at the pages, and I feel like Hubert might be to Sergeant Rock um what Barks is to, yep, Barks is
Is
to
Uncle Scrooge.
Uncle
Sure.
Scrooge and Donald Duck, where
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can somewhat identify which pages are his based on whether or not there are shadows.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I think I mean like
I
this
mean,
is
I initially had it open to the Mort Drucker page, which you can see his Mad Magazine, but you're right, he's not. But also no shadows. And if I
right.
open it to random pages and I see shadows, I look at the table of contents and it's Kubert. And if I look at them and I don't see shadows, it's Grandinetti or it's
I
Yeah,
mean,
it's pretty noticeable.
yeah,
I mean, Kubert, at least because I'm looking at, PDFs.
right,
Kubert, his name usually appears.
yeah,
yeah.
The others seem to be uncredited. Uh,
most of the time, yes.
Figure it out. But I will say that I had the moment I was like looking at one and I was like, man, what does this remind me of? This reminds me of Tarzan. I was like, oh yeah, it's Kubert.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. I like his Tarzan stuff's amazing too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, I need to
I
see
think
that.
it's really funny because like I suspect that this whole episode is going to turn into like Joe Kubert was awesome. But I mean,
Hey, Robert Kaniger's no.
yeah, Robin Kanigher, it's really funny because I think
I
that
mean, none of the art, I mean, this is something I want to toss out right now. None of the art was bad, which tells you exactly how good Kubert is.
Right.
right,
Because in a book full of very good art, he still stood out significantly.
right. Yeah, no. I think I agree with that. Let me see, what is this? Which one was this? Um, well, yeah, there's this one story that's Ross Andrew and Mike Esposito. And, the art is great. It's very evocative. Like I would, the facial expressions are interesting, but it is sort of like the one thing I would say about it, it feels a little more superhero-y.
Mhm.
Like the first, it's page 22 of archive edition.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
there's that,
And for Mark, it's part of Army at War number 81.
yeah.
Or not for for Sean.
But I mean, like
Yeah.
you've got like Rock standing there and the camera is behind him and his arms are massive and he just, it's
Right.
sort of like this whole thing and it's like, and that is so uh the
Well, and
antithesis
for
of
that
what
matter,
Kubert
it's one of
does.
the ones where we see the German, and the
Yeah.
German is the caricature,
Right.
massive
Yes.
bad guy.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the one where it's the difference between steel and iron,
Right.
Hmm.
right? Um, because in this, Rock, I guess, worked in a foundry, right?
Yeah, yeah, yep. I mean, yeah, the other thing, it is interesting because like as you read through these, you can see little elements of what eventually became the quintessential Sergeant Rock. I mean, because it's funny. Like it makes me think about like I always have this conversation about like Superman or Batman or whatever, and there's been it's like it's been published for almost 100 years now, and there's been 100 different versions of it that I almost feel like this idea of like the quintessential version of those characters just doesn't exist. Like it may be your favorite version, but like when we're talking about these serialized characters, there's always, you know, every version is going to have its fans, right? And when I look at the Siegel and Schuster very early Superman stuff, I feel like that's not my quintessential Superman. And but this, like, you can feel Conager building Sergeant Rock, right? You can feel him putting the pieces together to what that character is going to be, and that the character has use in telling these war stories, and then the refining continues. And you know, I that
He's a
was my
cipher, which we can put what we want into Rock at this
yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I love the idea that he was a boxer. I mean, I think that they've settled on that as being like they've settled on making that story part of the actual canon. And everybody knows I hate fucking canon, but that
With William Conrad,
oh my God.
that's a pulp blotter.
Oh, we just dropped a canon. Tad is like, what are you guys talking about? I don't know. It's wait until I bring up Salvage One. So anyway, um old TV shows. Yay. Sean and I are old. Um but no, yeah, but it was super interesting to read it in that, it's like, oh, okay, there's the boxing thing. There's this steel worker thing, which totally fits with the boxing thing. It's like I don't know. I just but I will say, like, there are elements in this book talking about Conager. Um, like again, I think Conager is sort of the quintessential DC military writer. Um, I really love his stuff. I think there's one Bob Haney story in this book, and in grand Bob Haney tradition, it's a little, huh? But it's the Haney verse. Um, but I just lost my train of thought. Isn't that great? But no, the one thing about all of these stories is, like, obviously Bob Conager thought a Panzer or a Tiger tank was the the most terrifying thing you could put on a battlefield, because I don't know how many of these stories end with and then a tank came.
Yeah. Or there was a tank sunk in, or
Yeah.
a tank on top of a pillbox.
Mhm. But I mean, to what you were talking about, Tad, I don't like, I totally see what you're saying. Like, I think I always think about that when people talk about war movies, and I think any war story, they're all propaganda and they're all anti-war stories. Like, I think that they like if you watch Apocalypse Now, it's totally an anti-war movie, but it's also got these elements of rah rah
Yeah.
elements. I mean,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's I think that is there was I watched there's a documentary about Lemmy Kilmister, who is the bassist and singer for Motorhead, right? And there's a guy on there, and he's talking about he was a roadie or something, and he was in the military, and he's like, Motorhead's good going to war movie. It's good going to war music. And he's like, and that I'm not, like, I'm not trying to glorify war or anything like that. It's a function of the human condition. And I thought that's a really good way to think about it. And honestly, in these books, and in Two-Fisted Tales and Frontline Combat, I think that's the way I felt about it. Like, there's that whole story where they've all got their little good luck charms, and Rock's like, you don't rely on luck, rely on the man next to you. And I think you can call that propaganda, you can call that, but I mean, it's also just sort of like it's also kind of a life lesson that you can take out of that event. It's in this context, but you can take it out of that context and be like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't rely on luck. Maybe I should look to the people around me, or the guy who's like, I look out for number one, and but yet he's keeps winning these medals, and Rock's like, at the end of the day, you're going to find out that you need to trust that man next to you. And I think those things are, I don't think, I guess I would push back a little against you, referring to it as propaganda. And I know you already sort of adjusted that terminology,
Yeah.
but
Propaganda is not the word. I guess
I mean,
what I really meant, and I agree with the stuff like the luck. It does have anti-war messages in there as well. But what I really meant is I was very aware of the dichotomy between Kurtzman's War is Hell and elements of War is Fun that that
well,
that seem more present here.
well, I think that, I don't know that I mean, this is a really interesting conversation. Don't get me wrong. I'm
Right,
considering what you're saying. I think I certainly don't think that this book goes as far as Kurtzman did, right?
right.
Okay, no argument on that whatsoever. I don't think, and maybe Sean has a thought about this too, instead of me just yabbering. Um, but I think that those elements that you're talking about is more about comradeship, right? I think that,
Probably,
and I think that that's present in almost like, you can
yeah,
take. I mean, and a lot of these people who worked on these books were in combat at some point or
absolutely,
another.
absolutely.
And I think that, yeah, I don't know, but I
And
think that,
I'm absolutely not trying to assign intent.
Mhm.
And it's also a place where I said that I felt like the words hurt it, like actively hurt it, because like when I'm just looking at the pictures, I don't get that same feeling. But the words are tend to be glorifying. The words tend to be, of course this happened because it's Easy Company.
well,
Yeah.
Um,
yeah,
you know, and
well, I think I don't know.
it fits its era. It fits its medium. It's not supposed to be condemnation as much as critique, particularly because you led with being surprised at how similar it was to the Kurtzman,
Yeah.
and I understand where you're coming from now because you talked about having read the later stuff where it became a more connected storyline, that sort of thing. Um, but for
Well,
me,
yeah,
it
I wouldn't
initially
say
felt
I wouldn't say connected, but it was definitely episodic. But it was
right,
a continuing group of characters.
right.
Yeah.
It was more MASH than Sergeant Rock and whoever the B character is
Right.
today.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
um, and as I say all of this, I love MASH, so that there are things that
No, I think
yeah,
that anytime you grapple with war material, there is questions to be raised about it,
right, right.
and I think that that's a perfectly valid thing, and I'm sure that if Bob Conager and Joe Kubert were still with us, they'd probably tell you. And
Well,
Joe
I mean, a
Kubert,
lot a lot of Joe Kubert's later war work,
yeah, I mean, even the last Sergeant Rock graphic novel he did, Between a
right,
Rock and a Hard Place, is very much
right.
it's got a very different
Didn't he
tone.
do a nonfiction one that I
He might
read?
have. I don't remember. I don't remember, but off the top of my head right now. But no, I just think
Facts from Sarajevo.
oh yeah, yeah. Oh yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Um,
but I don't know. What do you think, Sean?
What do I think? Like I feel like the question regarding whether it's propaganda, pro-war, anti-war, I think they're adventure stories with parables. Um, I think, it was the late 50s, so we were very much, you know, a lot of people, joined the army or the Marines, like, my,
Right.
Hmm.
um, but it was a camaraderie. Uh, that's what I see them really praising in here is like they're working together. And but again, I
But
do feel like the art is grittier and
hmm
grimmer than the writing betrays.
hmm hmm
Um,
Yeah, I think to the point of this book club, like I do think that what you're saying is absolutely true. They're adventure stories in the grand pulp fiction tradition that happen to be in this milieu, that allows you to tell an adventure story that I think do have, in the nature of what we're talking about here, they're parables that are about comradeship, and working together, and not
Comrade Pracht.
uh,
That's what we're calling you now.
no, 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 no. Um, but I do
Comrade
think, I
Pracht
mean,
says the
and
words do matter.
they do matter. Sorry. But I think it, and quite honestly, those are lessons that I think about comradeship and about working together and not being so self-centered and focused on your own things. Like those are not lessons that would be unwelcome right now, you
No,
know?
no,
Um,
and again, I've had lots of thoughts and I'm still organizing them as I go because I went through a lot of them because the artwork itself is amazing. And I've always enjoyed Joe Kubert, and I'd always kind of avoided Sergeant Rock. And I kind of realized why it was, which is that I'm not a big fan of war comics to begin with, but B, when I have the war comics, I want a lot of ambiguity. I'm uncomfortable with the enemies just being evil when you're talking about real wars. Um, because most of the enemies are just working Joes like you.
sure.
I'm uncomfortable with just the valor being portrayed without as much of the trauma.
Well, DC put out a book that was about a Nazi unit.
Oh
I don't
my
remember what
God.
the name it was, but it was like I think it was in the 60s, maybe. It was sort of like, and it didn't last very long, but they actually did.
I'm
I mean, like,
shocked.
but it was World War II from the point of view of the Germans, and it was exactly what you're talking about. That these people were not. They were just, they were men fighting and with the comradeship and everything. I don't know. I have my,
well, just so we're clear, to quote Bart Simpson, there are no good wars except World War II and the Star Wars trilogy.
I mean,
I can't remember what the name of there might be. There's my
you see,
Nice.
DC War Artist Edition here. There might have been a page from it in here. Oh, there you go. There's some raw Kubert right there, baby.
yeah.
It's amazing. Anyway, for some reason I think there's sorry, I'm away from my mic. Uh, for some reason I thought there was maybe a page from that book that no, no. No, no. I'm wrong. I'm wrong. I don't have a page from that in here. But I do
I
know it
mean,
have.
Anime Ace is a World
It's a
War.
World War One, and if he is a
Well, it
German
looks like it's World
pilot.
War One and Two.
No,
Says
I think
here.
Enemy Ace, they may have brought him back for crossovers.
Right.
I've always been fascinated, but like look, I'm not a huge war guy myself either.
Right.
But I always kind of loved the variety that DC put into their war books because you had Enemy Ace, which was this World War One book about a German. Basically, it was like the Red Baron, right?
Right.
There was the Unknown Soldier, which was basically like a superhero book. He was a master of disguise and ran around with the bandages on his face. And I've always loved the Unknown Soldier. I think it's a weird concept. There was the Haunted Tank, which was the supernatural thing where and I it was Stonewall Jackson or somebody like that it was a Confederate general. The ghost of a Confederate general was helping the tank crew because his great grandson was the commander of the tank. And then I remember it was like, I think it was in the 90s, they brought it back and they made the the descendant was actually, they made him a person of color. And then there was actual like conflict between this ghost and it was fascinating.
Anything if you want to send.
Was
Was
that?
it Blitzkrieg?
I think that was the book, Blitzkrieg. Yeah.
Does say it has an unambiguously negative view of German military of World War II,
Uh,
at least at the DC fandom wiki. But
well, I mean, I'm sure it did, but I mean,
right.
but it was based on.
But it also might have had a human perspective of good men being given terrible orders. I'm reading a
There's
make
some,
war no more. Yeah.
there's some DC indicia for there for you.
No,
Anyway,
yeah,
no.
no,
I
yeah,
think
I mean, I brought it up last time and I'll bring it up again now because it's at least one of my possible proposals for our next run is um Rick Veitch at Vertigo in the or mid aughts wrote a book called Army at Love, which is like
mm,
a total satire of like war in our current culture. So
mhm.
it's like a fictional Iraq war, and you've got the corporate interests, and you've got the money, or the social media slash
I mean,
whatever
like
aspects.
part of what's really interesting about telling war stories is exactly what you're talking about. Like, and by thinking of it as a function of the human condition, then there's a billion things you can do about it. You can
Right,
tell all sorts of stories. You can tell Apocalypse Now. You can do John Wayne's Green Berets, which
right.
is just kind of ridiculously overblown. If you've ever seen that movie, it's a hoot. But uh
Well, I think what you're saying uh, reminds me of, we briefly mentioned Robert Kirkman earlier. What Kirkman said about his Walking Dead series, that it's a world
The
where
zombies are the heroes.
no, where it's a world where every day matters, and it's a
Right,
world where you're not numbing
right,
yourself with television. You're
yeah.
not,
right.
every meal matters. Everything you do matters. And I think you're stripping that away to the human condition, and war stories really strip that away is, I have to be on guard 24/7, or there's a sniper's nest, there's, bombs dropping. I could let slip, loose slips sink ships. So I think it's something that we long for in our society, not for war, but for meaning
Yeah.
and for life to matter and to feel like it matters.
Well, and I think that also influences what Tad was talking about like the like it also means that if there's a moment of levity, if there's a moment of joy, you have to grab a hold of that and live in that as much as you can.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that, you know, it by its very nature, it leads to these fully fully lived in emotional moments, you know?
Yep.
I mean, and look, am I gonna I'm not making the argument that this is the greatest war story of all time or these because they're
No, I know.
not. I mean, and I wouldn't even say that the Kurtzman books, the stories we read
No,
last month, were the best war stories ever made.
no.
I just think I think that, you know, it's a really good milieu to tell stories about people under duress, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
and that's what all drama should be, you know? Like I think you know, you can't like, and this, you know, this occasionally comes up in theater where it's like, well, why do bad things have to happen all the time? Well, because that's what drama is, you know,
Right.
and that
Though, I mean, talking about the duress, though, I think you hit another one of the things that would often bother me in most of these stories, particularly if I was, again, I had a different view when I was just flipping through, looking at the pictures, that sense of duress, that sense of danger. I didn't feel it as much as I wanted to. And some of that is, and like and this is, I realize it's one of the reasons why I
there's
am
too many
both.
words. Just say it.
No, no, because I mean, because it's not that simple. There are comics that have
Uh,
tons of words that I still love,
Tad,
but
I'm just teasing you.
no, I know. But like I go to the words first.
hmm
So my emotions are primed by the words.
Sure.
I don't really start looking at the pictures, and maybe I need to work harder on this. In fact, I feel like I need to work harder on this. But my natural inclination is to go towards the words first. So when the words set me up in this, sure it's hard, but Sergeant Rock is here.
Well, I mean, I totally agree with you. Like, look, it's part of. I actually think that as I've gotten older, I actually have found myself having a harder time integrating. This is really interesting. I was reading this book and I was like, okay, I just read the captions. Now I need to shift and look at the picture, look at the artwork, and then and what used to be that would just happen. Like I could take it all in at once. I felt like now I don't know. I feel like I have to flip the switch,
Yeah,
and
that
I don't know if that's uh, a loss of mental acuity on my part,
no,
which I
I
worry
was
about. But
no, it's interesting you say that because I find it harder myself sometimes. And B, I find that it's a really common theme among older people that used to be into comics. When I try to get them into new comics, they will tell me about, I just can't read them anymore. They just, they don't. And um, I actually wonder if it's more storytelling has been refined in so many different ways that there isn't a strict formula for how to read a comic anymore.
uh,
Um, and particularly for those of us who read a lot of comics, to go back to the more formulaic setup requires a little bit of a reset. And for those people who only know that formulaic setup, there's like some 200 level classes in comics literacy that they need to take to really pick up on how modern comics work.
I
And that's
okay.
just an off the
Th-
cuff
th-
type thing. It's
yeah,
not.
that actually like sometimes uh and I agree with you. I think that modern comics creators are much more comfortable with uh and a lot of times you're also dealing with somebody who's writing all of the material and drawing everything, right? Um Certainly the more interesting stuff. Like mainstream books, yeah, you're still got a writer, you got an artist, or
But even in the mainstream, I think,
but you have an integration that is designed. Um, but I also think that there has been a influence of film
yeah,
that sometimes feels like a dead end to me. I mean,
I agree with that.
this is a deep conversation for talking about Sergeant Rock, but
Hey, that's how we roll here. I had to tell you that at least once per pulp blotter.
I know. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think
You'd think you'd
um
be used to it by now,
uh
comrade.
eh, uh, um
Don't
uh,
worry, I will have forgotten by the next time we talk.
yeah,
My memory's just not that good
That's
for
why there's
things
a
like that.
T-shirt coming.
Oh, okay.
nice.
Huh? Should I
Anyway,
text my wife right now? We need Comrade Pracht t-shirts.
no. Um anyway, no,
Sergeant Rock meets
but
Comrade Pratt.
eh. Sometimes, sometimes actually when I think about that, when I think about having to shift, I always think, oh, maybe this is in a different size. But then I'm like, no, this is basically comic book size. So these pages are
Right.
probably full sized. And I'm just like, I don't know. Maybe my brain is a less elastic now or whatever. Tad, I give you a hard time about it.
I know.
But it was just, I I at least make some of my meager living off of writing, and so yeah, I do think words are important.
I do
And,
think that
and
I love writing.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time. I'm
I know.
teasing
I
you,
know. I
but
know.
I don't know. I think that
In fact,
I
I
think that
think
often I'm going to take this back to Sergeant Rock real
sure.
quick. I
Okay.
think that what you're talking about like so many, I think as we got further and further in the book, I think Rock became more integrated into the stories.
Right.
But I think that when it started out, he really did feel like one of those
Yeah.
EC Comics narrators. And in
Yeah.
which case, if it's like, well, it's Rock and he's the toughest top dog on it, but it's like,
Well, it's
yeah,
got
I
it's
know
got
that's
kind of the
and
40s newsreel
sure.
tone to it too.
Yeah.
Our
I
fighting boys.
yeah. I mean, but and that might have been entirely intentional
Right.
to have that kind of newsreel feel. But I
Absolutely.
mean, I think that I think I also don't think that this structure was the most conducive to that character,
Absolutely
right?
not.
Because I think when those ones that I read when I was a kid, the more episodic with, Easy Company being this group of like I think it was 6 to 8 soldiers that were always with Rock, and and the thing, it may have been even less realistic because none of those guys were going to die, right?
Right.
Um, but like, and you knew that Ice Cream Soldier was going to be there, and Bulldozer and Little Sure Shot, and I can't remember everybody else, but
Hey, so at least a couple of them we met here.
Yes. Oh, yes. Actually, I did want to point out that ice cream soldier story. Oh, where is it? That had one of my
On it.
favorite Joe Kubert panels of all time. I'd never seen it before. And where is it?
61 is where it starts.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, it's on page 10 of the ice cream soldier story. Um, it's right after he's hit the tank and dropped it, and he's sitting. It's monotone in our book, and he's got the bazooka, and it's
Yeah.
I it's yeah, it's page 71 of the archive, but it's page 10 of the ice cream. So that second row panel farthest to the right that's possibly my favorite Joe Kubert panel I've
That's
ever seen.
Let me.
a pretty fantastic panel.
Sean's looking for it
Yeah,
in
I'm
his
looking for it right now.
copious
It would
PDFs.
be in
It
Ice Cream Man is
is
in Army at War number 85.
Yeah. So, what was describe it again?
It's in
it's
the
on
Bottom
page 10 of the
of
Rocky
the
Okay.
yeah.
Of
and
the
it yeah, there's three rows of panels, central panel.
the
It's
central panel with him and the bazooka.
yes. I
Yes.
think that's
Yeah.
that piece of artwork is incredible. And the
Yeah.
thing is that character, like that panel cemented to me that when they made Easy more of a recognizable group of soldiers, why you would bring that character back.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So in the original here, it's gray with a yellow caption.
Yes.
Yeah.
hmm
Hmm.
It's a stunning piece of artwork.
Yeah. It's really nice.
I mean that whole page is great. But that moment is I love sorry, the tank going in, breaking through the ice, that the bottom with the foot wrapped up from the frostbite. It's just so
Right.
good.
Right. That's what I thought you were talking about
No.
first. That
Yeah.
POV.
Yeah,
Well,
no.
the bottom right is pretty damn good too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, like we could spend probably an hour just going through this book and being like, look at that Kubert.
This panel's amazing. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
I wanted to backtrack just a little bit to the storytelling flow, because I think it's one of the unsung developments of modern comics. What I so rarely find myself thinking in older comics is, oh God, who lettered this? Because it's really making the story flow. I think there are some people. I mean, you can look at some early Spirit and you can tell that Eisner was already starting to think about it, but he still didn't get good at it until much later, right? The idea that like word placement matters, that balloon shape matters, that it's not just how many words that matters, it's how they're integrated into the page that matters is one of the more really unsung recent comic developments. And I wonder if that also has something to do with why people who are used to reading new comics sometimes have to reset themselves reading old comics, or people who loved old comics and haven't read anything new come to read new comics and they're like, huh, where do I go? And I'm like, well, you just follow the balloons. Well, why isn't it just strictly right to left? Well, sometimes
Well,
it is, but sometimes.
I mean, look, I mean, I don't think that uh balloon spotting is really all that new. I mean, certainly like we can go back to Lee and Kirby, he was putting those into, Jack was leaving the space and Stan would have to craft the balloon to fit into that space, And I think that
But
clearly, I
that
think,
was more about not messing with the art than
right.
having the balloon be part of the storytelling.
Well, I mean I mean the
I mean,
Nate.
because just to use another example, like I don't know why they choose pink versus yellow for text boxes in this. I don't know if they know why they choose pink versus yellow. Whereas I think
Well,
most modern comics there would be
I mean, I would think like on that same story, page 7, there's a switch. The text box. I mean, I think it's probably just a pure technical reason because the text box that for whatever reason they drew the background yellow
right.
and then the text box is pink because you couldn't have done that. Uh and with
But
the
it
more
in the only slightly darker yellow on that same page, it's still a yellow text box.
well, it looks orange to me, but that's a different story altogether. But
Okay,
uh
but it's a heavy on the yellow orange, not a
Well,
heavy on the red
I mean,
orange.
I think also that probably has a lot to do with technology as well. I mean,
Yeah,
like we're right now these stories, and I'm sure they've been recolored in this archive, but the assumption is that they use the original coloring as some sort of basis.
right. And I'm not
They
saying
only
there's
had
none of it because
I will
just
say,
looking,
to me, the original coloring, which is what I'm looking at, is amazing. And I noticed it multiple times throughout. Just the use of color, the
yeah.
use of the use of going to monotone in
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, I've thought the coloring is pretty impressive, so I'm certain that they tried to keep the feel of the coloring here. But I'll say
But I
that
mean, and that was, but the point I'm trying to make is that was pure four color coloring. I mean,
right.
like that's been left behind so much now, like the ability to do, gradients and things like that. Um, they didn't really have that ability, or if they did, it was really expensive, I read
Eh,
it. Go, oh my God. I read an amazing story uh about this coloring. Sorry. That apparently at one time DC to save money, uh because the newsprint yellowed, they reduced the amount of yellow ink in the four color process. And that who was it? One of the editors came in and I think it was Paul Levitz was telling this story. Is like one of the editors came in and was like, "How much money does that really save us?" And the guy was like, the production guy was like, "Ah, it's like $15 a book." And Jeanette Kahn goes, "That's not a savings." So anyway, it was just another
Um,
another Jeanette Kahn story in my
I'm
file.
gonna massively like call myself out here on the fact that they were definitely thinking about it as I on more levels than I gave them credit with initially. Because just looking at these pages of ice cream,
Ice Cream
pages
Soldier.
7 and 8 here, right?
Yeah.
On page 8, you've got a non-outline balloon that kind of emphasizes his shivering. Um, on page 7 in the bottom corner, the sharpness of the point going towards Rock really emphasizes more than anything else that that's Rock calling to
Hmm.
his
Oh yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And for that matter, the thought balloon that kind of ducks around the foxhole.
Hmm.
Um, so I didn't. yeah, I
Well, I mean, one thing I can tell you from reading these stories is I don't think Joe Kubert liked thought balloons that look like clouds.
yeah.
I mean, he's got the little dotted line going to it, the
Mhm.
dotted circles, but the balloon itself is just a oval, like
Well, I mean
any other.
the
Well,
bottom
the one
left corner
below it,
here.
though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right.
But
I
that's the ice
I'm
cream
wrong.
soldier. It's no, no, but that's the difference between the ice cream. Now I'm beginning, and they don't credit letterers here, so I don't know how much of it winds up being
Well,
the
yeah,
artist drawing the balloons or
there was one
them
point in
even
here
lettering
where I
themselves.
was curious who had inked, uh, and a lot of those Kubert stories have no inker, so I'm not. Did Joe ink them himself? I
I
don't.
mean, based on at least half of the original Kubert art I've seen being inked, I wouldn't be surprised.
Although, I mean, like that. I mean, like the original artwork would always be inked because the inker would ink right on the original artwork.
That's true.
Um, and then I remember there's like a formula for how many of those pages the inker would get and how many the penciler would get. Um,
Well, at this time it was none and none.
true, true, true. No argument, no
I'm
argument.
surprised that they didn't come up with that as a reason that they couldn't give the art back. Well, whose art is it? Is it the pencilers or is it the inkers?
Well, and then the writer got a couple of pages too, so eventually. Anyway, I don't,
Well,
I think
I'm sorry. I just got to the end of the ice cream soldier, and I'm looking at Peter Porkchops gives tips on summer fun, uh,
Oh,
which is the one pager public service message to kids to have fun this summer.
okay, okay. Go buy your army gear at the five and dime and play army in the yards. And that's a little bit of what I felt like, and I guess it hasn't really changed. They just play Call of Duty now rather than playing Army in the yard.
oh, sure.
Oh, right.
Actually, I'm just looking at the Our Army at War cover for 86. That's right after the Ice Cream Soldier story in our
Right.
book. Man, that I just looked, I was like, wow, that cover is amazing. And I realized it's Russ Heath. And I'm like, wow,
Oh,
that like and the it's that's an amazing cover.
Well, it's an amazing cover for the story that you liked the least because it's the uh it's the Bob Haney story.
Well, no, I don't let me be
Hubert
clear.
art on
Let me
the Bob Haney.
clarify. I I love Bob Haney, but that's because Bob Haney cares as little for canon as I do. Like,
Okay, you know what I just noticed? The lettering style is significantly different in the Bob
yeah,
Haney story. It has lowercase letters.
yeah,
well, that's also the one that ends with Rock, inviting people to write to them at national periodicals.
which
I
also
think
feels
so.
very Bob Haney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, like Bob Haney, Ted, do you know about Bob Haney?
Not really.
Okay, Bob
Oh,
Haney was sort of known as the writer of Brave and Bold when it
Okay.
was the the
the Haneyverse.
Batman the Batman team up book, and they started referring to it as the Haneyverse because nothing made sense with anything else. Like he had Batman team up with Sergeant Rock on a couple of occasions when like Rock should have been like 85 years old, you know? And the famous one is there's like a team up with Superman, and Superman is somehow able to phase through a wall. Like he doesn't break through the wall. He doesn't like he just sort of like walks through the wall like Kitty Pryde. And everybody's like, what the hell is this? But I mean, like, yeah, like he repeatedly, but they had to call it the Haney verse. Sean has a point.
George Reeves.
Okay, so I have read
George
one
Reeves did it
Haney
once.
comic for certain
But
because
Bob Haney is probably one of my favorite comic book writers, just because the man did not give a shit.
It was
Like
about
it's
the
like,
story.
yeah, it was just like I'm this is my story. I don't care. Well, wait a minute.
okay,
Adam Strange can't be here. Yup, yup, he's here.
so first trivia question: Do you know
You've made Green Lantern into a murderer. Yeah, so
do you know what Neil Adams' first Batman comic was?
I'm gonna assume it was a Brave and Bold at some point.
It was. It was Brave and Bold number 79, written by Bob Haney with Batman and Deadman.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Which I already knew because like I came across actually literally the same day I was introduced to Saga at Comics on the Green, where they sent it. They mailed me my copy because he sold me hard on it, and I then didn't have it on stock. And I was leaving town because we had only stopped in Scranton for lunch and comic books. But I also came across a copy of Brave and the Bold 79 for I think like $15, because even though it's Adam's first Batman book, it's not like the first appearance of whatever dumb fuck character means more than the first time somebody legendary draws some. I do not
Well,
understand what makes comics collectibles
I
great.
mean, look, Sean can tell you the story. Like when we were at C2E2. Well, you were there too, doing the Mark of Cain panel, and
Mhm.
I was talking about the very first comic book that I can remember reading on my own. Strangely enough, it was a Brave and the Bold. It was Batman and the Unknown Soldier, and God bless Bob Haney actually copped to canon and made it the Earth 2 Batman.
Was this number 146?
I think so, yeah. I have it someplace because I bought the copy and it was like
Right.
$2. So whatever.
Well, you were looking at it, and I was like, you have to buy it.
It's got a Nazi on the cover and Abraham
Never be
Lincoln.
reprinted. That's something we could talk about too. I find it.
Is this it? Just really quick.
I'm sure it is. Yes, it sure is. I know Untold Tale from World War II. That's right. God, I love me
From
some
January 1979.
I
Bob
love
Haney and Romeo Tongle.
Yep.
I don't know Romeo Tongle. I do know the editor though. Paul edited.
Uh, it's another thing we could talk about. Like I am kind of flabbergasted that DC seems unwilling to reprint any of this stuff, the Sergeant Rock stuff. Like I would think that it would sell at least a little bit. I mean, a lot of these, it may not be an evergreen to product, but I mean,
I mean, they're publishing these. They just did a Superboy reprint. Paperback. Uh, so they're doing stuff with this format, right? I would think that they would publish this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that Our Army at War, the Kubert book you got, the artist is it called an artist edition?
It's a IDW artist edition
Yeah.
of DC war artwork.
Yeah.
So there's like
So
Kirby's.
it's not just
yeah.
Kubert. But you would think if that sold, they would realize. I mean, there's a market out here for.
Well, I mean,
what's the market for Superboy?
Yeah.
Like the 50s Superboy stuff. I mean, it's me. Who would
Yeah,
also buy Sergeant Rock?
I will say that both of the Brave and the Bolds that we've just talked about are on DC Infinite.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I think most of the stuff that's on DC Infinite is also available on like Comixology.
Right.
And I was like, I really like to read some Sergeant Rock and can't get it. I mean, and like putting it out digitally, like that costs them virtually nothing, you know? I mean, some of I have purchased some of those Brave and Bold books digitally, and they're not even like they are literally just like scans of the pages. You can tell because they're yellowed and it's just like
See, see, I'm gonna have to try to remember to talk to Scott Brian Wilson the next time I have him on, because when I talked to him, apparently when he was working in the DC offices, um, one of his jobs was to fill the gaps in their library. And when he started, there were like 30,000 copy or 30,000 books, something like a really high number of books that they did not have.
right.
And by 8 years later, I think he got it down to low four figures. But, like, what are those books?
Yeah.
B, you know,
Well,
what is the quality of the ones that they do have?
right.
I mean, obviously they have the ones in this Sergeant. I mean, the things that they've reprinted, they have, and those are the ones that I don't understand why they're not
Why?
at least available
Like,
digitally, unless
yeah.
there's some sort of rights thing that we don't know about.
The one thing about it is like I wonder because I when the last time somebody did a mainstream uh Indiana Jones action figure collection, they were talking about how we can't really do Nazis. And I'm like, is that part of the issue? Is it the fact that they don't want to publish stuff that's got Nazi material in it?
I
I mean,
mean,
and
have either of you watched the rehearsal,
no.
I've watched a
Nathan
couple episodes.
Nathan Fielder?
Yeah.
Um, one of the things that comes up is that apparently, one of the episodes of Nathan for You that he was most proud of was it came out that a major like sporting goods supplier in Canada like had neo-Nazi ties. So he started a store and like you could buy your jacket, you could bring your jacket of the other kind and exchange it, et
Right.
cetera, et cetera. And it's not on Paramount Plus right now, just that episode. And as he's dug into it, apparently it started with Germany banning it on Paramount Plus, and then most of Europe followed suit. And once they had, it was so like I
I
don't want to get into all of the politics because there's just so like uh,
I mean, yeah, look, I
yeah.
understand. It's just one of those things where it for me it does like these, especially those like late 70s, early 80 books when like and I look, and I want to be really clear. I wasn't like rigorously going out and trying to find issues of Sergeant Rock, but I would always get excited when I would find one. And it was all, like I said, it was all very episodic. So, but like if I could get digitally Sergeant Rock or Our Army at War or whatever, I'd buy it. Um, but like it's one of those things where it's like contextually, there's nothing pro-Nazi in these
No.
books. It's
Well,
like
and I mean that was
it's
part of what
also
Nathan was upset about is like his episode was
yeah,
unequivocally anti-Nazi.
right. And it's
Um,
like, but it's like it seems like
and literally the reason that he was given was sensitive manners, anti-Semitism. And he's like, I'm a Jewish comic fighting anti-Semitism.
well, I don't know. I think that it's like one of those things where it's like it's
it's always.
I don't want to
you
open a
have
can
you
of worms, but it's
no,
like,
and
but
I don't
it's
either. But I am going to toss out for our listeners at least, and possibly for you guys if you haven't. Have you read We Spoke Out: Comic Books and the Holocaust?
hmm
No, I always go at Comic Con. I always go to the Comics and the Holocaust panel.
Right.
That's the
Um,
Neil Adams.
yeah, Neil Adams was
Yeah,
involved in it, Raphael Medoff, Craig Yo. Um,
yeah, very interested in it.
but one of the things that I learned from this book and then confirmed elsewhere was like um between the end of World War II and like Elie Wiesel's Night, there were so many topics related to the Holocaust and Nazis that really just weren't talked about anywhere except comics.
yeah.
And even there, it was, because the Jews that had lived through it were a mixture of we don't want to relive it, and the people who hadn't spoken out enough at the time were like a mixture of we want to whitewash it and it's just too, I mean, um,
Well, I
which is
mean, I
why
think that,
now it's a mixture of legitimate, there are people that just seeing that symbol horribly offends them, hurts them, that sort of thing, and a mixture of there are a lot of people out there that would prefer that you not shine a light on them in that way because yes, we are there, but don't you dare say that we're there.
well, but it's also like, look, I think we've already covered the fact that these are basically just simple adventure stories, right?
Right.
That are in the milieu of this
Hmm.
historic event that in the middle part of the 20th century was fodder for all sorts of
Yep.
entertainment, right?
Hmm.
Um, but it's
I mean, at
history.
least there, yeah.
It's
And at that point, and I think for all time, you can't argue with Nazis bad,
yeah,
No,
right?
but
I don't
it's
think
just
you.
That's why
I don't
World
think you
War
can.
II stories are more popular than Korea stories and
Right.
World War One.
Right. Right.
yeah.
No, but I guess that's where I'm going, that's where your
Well, I mean, I
answer
think
is probably corporate cowardice.
I'm 100% think it's a corporate cowardice, but I mean, it's just like, it's you're not
It's
putting up a
just
statue.
enough of a sensitive, yeah, but it's
Yeah.
just enough of a sensitive issue with not enough upside. Like they're not going to stop making Indiana Jones available.
But we're
But
never going to get Colonel Dietrich, like as an action figure,
right.
Right.
And that's and then like it's not something that I'm like militant about or anything like that, but it's one of those things where it's like I do think that these comics represent if only for the Joe Kubert artwork, a significant historical.
Oh, I absolutely pray that we move forward into an era of
Well, I mean, it's just like I think that sometimes people um that there is a fence and then there's like context and historical reality and also yeah, but context, intent and context. Like, and I think that uh again, like you say, it's corporate cowardice to not want to put these books out uh or make them available. They put them out. They clearly put them out. I mean, and yet at the same time, they were talking about doing, they're still talking about doing this Sergeant Rock movie, right? And I
all
I
many
the
of his later stories that are less World War II centric
well, I don't
are
I don't
available. I mean,
um
actually, that's a
Bruce
good question.
Campbell's uh,
what?
Like,
Bruce Campbell's Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead.
Well, yeah, I don't say to zombies.
I was actually it was I had been just looking. So Kubert did a book called Rock the Prophecy in
Yeah, that was a
2006 that's
I think
available.
if I remember correctly, that
And
is
it says it's World War II.
yeah, I think it's got a spiritual aspect to it. Um see
Well, and well, no,
that's
there's a swastika and a
sure.
hammer and sickle, but it's one on a map. I mean, I'm
The
just flipping through the first issue here.
But you know,
Uh,
it was funny because when I was reading, like, because when they said they were going to make a Sergeant Rock movie, I was like, oh, that'll be cool, you know. And then they were talking about Daniel Craig playing Sergeant Rock, and I was like, oh, that'll be cool. And then
okay,
I heard what the plot was, and I'm like, oh, Sergeant
so
Rock chasing the spear of destiny across, you know, and I'm like, oh, okay, so we're turning Rock into Indiana Jones. And are you going to turn
Spectre's
the
going to have to show up.
yeah. And then, you know, and then what are you gonna you're gonna come up with some sort of, you know, Hydra? Like that's a like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the way they have made Hydra into
okay.
I don't know. Anyway, this is a
So,
much bigger
so,
conversation than this
Right.
one, but
so I could pull this up digitally, but I'm not going to bother because it's too much work. I'm just looking at a tank battle from let's see if I
prophecy.
prophecy.
Yeah.
There are
Oh
no
no, I
armbands. There are no swastikas on the tank.
yeah.
Is that basically black and white with a little pop of color?
No, it's green and gray and
Oh,
red for blood and
Well, I mean, you know, and the thing about it is that, you know, editorial might have come in and said, Joe, we gotta take these out. And
I mean the closest we have is
Joe was a pro.
yeah, there is one shot where you can see the eagle with the circle under it and a little bit of a swastika.
Yeah,
So I found two swastikas total so far. One was on a map and one was on like the eagle rank insignia on like the tank driver
right.
or
Well, I
tank
mean, like,
captain.
you know, unfortunately, guys, I'm gonna have to get off here pretty quick. But you know, I think that too, I am somewhat annoyed by the corporate cowardice of it, more
Right.
than a little annoyed. I mean, I think that this is stuff that would be worth preserving and worth allowing people to read. But on the opposite side of that, I think that there probably is some concern from like DC editorial and DC corporate that with our digital world that we live in and with, you know, AI and all that stuff, that it would be very easy to take some of this imagery out of context and manipulate it. And you know, and
right.
that's a valid concern, but it's also like, you know, if some Liechtenstein type wanted to take something out and turn it into some sort of pro-Nazi bullshit, you know, there'd be not much to do about it, really, you know.
So I'm gonna wrap up.
Could I just say one more thing
Yeah.
before we go? Because I briefly mentioned it. I don't know if anyone here listening does attend San Diego Comic-Con. There's an annual panel on comics and the Holocaust. I always learn a lot. I cry sometimes. They have survivors. They have children of survivors, and it's very much related to art and the perseverance of art and artists. And I never miss it when I'm there. So I'll give a shout out to that.
So I was gonna give
I can also
go ahead.
officially announce that my San Diego Comic-Con panel submission was not accepted.
Sad.
The
Sad
the of
face.
the Avengers of comic book playwriting, all credit to Crystal Skillman for that title, will not be assembling in San Diego.
Maybe New York.
Maybe New York.
Eh.
Maybe on somebody's podcast.
Hey, I'll do it.
Maybe you need to be the defenders, and so you're a non-team. You're non-sanctioned.
You know what? That's actually a good idea. I should pitch that to the folks. But wait a sec. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We've been talking about it. So the core of us.
So I just my brain being my brain, I read something recently and it I think connects to how we wrapped up this this episode, and it gives me an opportunity to both quote the wonderful Alan Moore and plug the Heavy Metal Book Club podcast, because this is from an interview from Metal Erlant, and it's reposted in the new Metal Erlant #1, that we will be getting to on the Heavy Metal Book Club very soon. And the interviewer said, in the past, the creative world had to fight all kinds of official censorship like the Hays Code and the Comics Code Authority. Now there's no more code, but it seems that a lot of people feel triggered by what they watch or read. Social networks have become a kind of standardization machine. I'm also thinking of the SJW crowd wanting to ban certain books, same as religious fanatics on the whole other end of the spectrum. I'd like your opinion on contemporary censorship, and if you think 60s underground comics would be possible today, or would they be judged offensive? And he said, and I'm reading it just because he worded it so much better than I ever have. I won't read his whole answer, just the first paragraph. I think I need to break this question down before I answer it. The Hays Code and the Comics Code, which I am proud to have played a part in dismantling, were both implemented systems of censorship imposed from above by conservative political and business interests. Such has always been the case in the Western world during my lifetime. While I have no personal interest in social media, I fail to see how having people object over issues they feel affected by, when as individuals they clearly have no power to implement those objections, can be seen as equivalent to censorship. In fact, when I've noticed freedom of speech issues rising over the last decade, they seem mainly to have been raised by conservatives who have confused being censored with being criticized. I've observed numerous right-wing figures, both here and in America, state on national and international state media their conviction that people with their political opinions are being silenced, apparently unaware of any self-contradiction in these globally broadcast assertions. Very often, such claims of oppression seem to boil down to a wish to tell rape jokes or racial jokes without having anyone point out that you're an asshole. Criticism is not censorship. Historically, in almost every instance I can think of, criticism is what will end up being genuinely censored, usually by the conservative political and business interest mentioned earlier. And I only bring that up because I feel like, in terms of not reprinting these war comics, in terms of being incredibly gun shy on certain episodes of various TV shows or whatnot, the things that are most likely not to get printed are the ones where you can come up with a left reason, but it's really the right that doesn't want them out.
Maybe. Look, I
I mean,
100%, I 100% agree with what Alan Moore said.
yeah,
100%. I also think that, and Sean has heard me talk about this a lot, that no one just wants to turn it off,
yeah.
and that includes the left,
I
right?
no, I wasn't saying.
Yeah. No.
I wasn't.
I think
What I was saying is the most likely thing to actually get pulled from a streaming service, or to not be reprinted, whatever, when corporate cowardice is what makes something not available.
Sure.
I think that more times than not, it's because they have cover on the left, which means that there is actual some level of the left that's uncomfortable with whatever, but they have pressure on the right.
Sure.
So when they've got it from both sides, so
absolutely.
Officially,
Absolutely.
oh, it's got swastikas, so it's anti-Semitism.
Right. No,
But really,
I
it's
think
got swastikas, and we sometimes like to put our arms up, so just No.
I just think I do think like I think
I mean, an example of this that Nathan Fielder used was he went to Paramount Plus and put in Hitler and got like 25 results. He put in Judaism and got no results.
mhm. No, I think I think that it's a far more I think that, and again, I have to get off. But
Yeah.
I think that this is a really complicated
Oh, absolutely.
question. It's a really complicated question. And it does come down to, I think that whenever you have a dedicated and motivated effort to stop something from being produced or seen or presented, and I'm that
Yeah.
not so that other people can't see it, or other people can't produce it. I think that is a problem. I think that is something that is it's your saying criticism is 100% okay. I am okay with somebody criticizing
Hmm.
anything. I am okay
Hmm.
with all of that. I just think that the minute you say, well, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that or you shouldn't do that, it's like you write your own response to it, and then
Right.
just let it play out, because it might not find an audience. It might find an audience. I don't know. But I do know that that I think very simply for me is like, I think that these books, even if it's just for Kubert's
Oh,
artwork,
yeah.
should be available to people. And that I think that there is, it definitely is corporate cowardice. Um, but I think that the nature of that is 100% what is right. There's people who don't want it for any number of reasons.
Right.
And these
Well, and
small groups
I
are
mean,
making it impossible for those of us who have a
I
uh,
mean, and really what it is
nuanced view of what's in these books. Anyway,
there's not enough money to be made to make it worth the bad publicity, no matter where it comes from, for an act that would otherwise be essentially free to them.
right. Well, and the thing is like what one thing is like, this Sergeant Rock movie got delayed, at least, if not canceled. Um, and I was always curious what was going to happen if that movie came out, because corporate synergy would demand that you make the material available so that if
Though
somebody decides,
DC's always been really bad at that.
eh,
Not as bad at as Marvel. Marvel's really good at 6 months after the movie leaves the theater, they finally get the definitive collection onto the shelves.
but I mean, yeah, it's anyway. Anyway, I have to go.
Yeah,
I,
I should too.
I
Uh,
I've heard our
Might be a tough sale for action figures too.
That's
I mean,
true.
G.I. Joe's making a comeback, so who knows?
All I know is that the one Sergeant Rock action figure that I got by the lovely grace of Chad Wise is not is way too modern. It doesn't look like it does not look like this. This
Yeah.
is the action figure I wanted. I wanted Sergeant Rock with the gun belts over his shoulder. Like funny enough, this Sergeant Rock never appears in this book. Anyway, I have to go.
So
Right.
for Sean
Uh,
Harklerode, for Mark Pracht, this has been the Pulp Blotter on 22 panels. We will see you after the next page.
Hey guys, this is Tyler from 22 Panels. I'm here to tell you all about our Patreon. If you enjoy this show, please consider donating to our Patreon to keep this show going. We have many different tiers, all different levels to help you decide what's right for you. Okay, so get on out there to patreon.com/22 Panels Podcast.